Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. A little bit of a different one this week. Kind of want to do something a little bit different than what I've been typically doing. I feel like I've been covering all these kind of heavy-ish subjects or like being kind of serious. So I'm going to do something a little more maybe technical, more informative, and more chill, at least for me on the recording end. Maybe a bit more loose recording and editing end. So today I kind of want to talk about how I draw comic characters. So what you see here on the screen are obviously two very early sketches of kind of how I typically do the thing. There's kind of two variants of how I draw characters, and one is this one on the left, obviously, and then one is this one on the right. One is more of this chibi style over here, and then one is I'm going to call this realistic. It's obviously not like, you know, a realistic quote unquote way of drawing, but just the way I'm going to describe it for the purposes of this video. I would say more anatomically correct for this one on the left. I use both those kind of simultaneously some of the time. So like, for example, in my webcomic, in the first issue, if you saw the ogre, he was drawn more with this method, and then Zemo and Crystal were drawn more with this method. Both of these for me produce very quick results. Like I can draw this way very quickly. This is just something I developed over time. Again, for those of you that don't know, I'm a self-taught artist. So this is just a process that I came up with over time, and if you're early on in your journey, it does take time to develop these kinds of things. Obviously these sketches are a little bit far on in terms of like how I first start, so obviously, like I've said in previous videos, I don't like to sketch a ton live on the channel, but I'm going to kind of go back in this and break down how I kind of think about these things when I'm sketching in this way. And then we'll take these to kind of a flat color stage. We won't do any shading, but I'll get them to, I would say, like 3/4 of the way to finished look by the end of the video. This one on the right, we'll start with him. He's actually the comic I talk about I did in the past, like the test comic, he's actually from that. His name's Corey. He's a little like gnome guy. So technically when I'm making this kind of character, it's very simple. Like it's more of that chibi style again. So like the body is pretty much that. It's just like almost like a chess piece type of shape. And then I'll do this for the arm or like the shoulders. And then the arms and hands are just like tubes. Obviously this is going very quickly and oversimplifying. And then the feet are kind of the same thing. And again, this is kind of how I think about Zemo. There is definitely like some variation in there, at least with Zemo specifically, where I kind of mix some of these elements into, but to be honest, it's a very subconscious way of me doing things. And I kind of draw him, but kind of somewhere between these styles as needed, as the like panel I'm drawing needs. Hopefully that makes sense. It's very like a case-by-case basis kind of thing. I will, though, never draw Zemo this way just because he's not a tall person. So like this is usually how I would draw someone like a kid or anybody like that's super short. Zemo's obviously a very small old man, so that's kind of how that goes. So this one on the left, I kind of break down similarly. So typically when I'm drawing this way on the left, I'll actually draw the body first, because if you draw like the chest area first, it actually provides a great way of building the rest of the body off of. It's actually the core of the body. A lot of people like to start with the head, and sometimes I still will start with the head. But if I'm really thinking about it and really going through the proper way that I like to do things, I will start with the body first. It's really great to pose off of, because then you could throw the head here, put a couple arms here, and then all of a sudden you have like, someone charging into battle or something like that, right? It's obviously very quick. Going back, in regards to this pose, so I have the head here. I kind of usually typically draw the neck like this. Sometimes I'll just do even one line, the body here, and then I have this like little tube shape coming out for the lower stomach. I'll still do these little circles for the shoulders just because it's easy, and then you can even do that for like the clavicle or whatever, but not necessary with the way I draw. And then the arms are essentially just tubes, and the hands, I use circles. I covered that in my drawing hands video. I'll probably update that video at some point, but I do use circles instead of, like a squarish shape. Obviously that's a really awful hand, but hopefully you get the point, and then you can build, the other arm off kind of the same way. And then for the waist, I kind of do this almost like diaper shape. And then a lot of people will do like kind of the similar thing I did the shoulders, but I just usually do tubes. I hate drawing legs and feet, so I try and avoid them as much as possible. And again, this is going very quick, very sketchy. I think about this a lot more when I'm doing it the right way instead of going so fast. And then, you can pose really easy off of that and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully that helps. And both of these are super useful ways to draw. Obviously, like this one is way quicker, the one on the right. Kind of, it's simplicity over complexity, and you need both sometimes. But that's usually how I start pretty much every drawing, and then I'll do that kind of stuff too. And then your ears over here. And then something to always remember, even with these small guys, is the neck actually comes off the back of the head. So you don't want like your back of your neck coming off like next to your ear, right? I make that mistake sometimes, but we'll go ahead and hide that, and then we'll get into the actual drawing. So hopefully that made sense. Again, like these are very, I developed this process myself, so this might not be like the technically correct way of doing things, but it works for me. And if you want to just try something different or try something new, this is the way I do things. Typically I will take these sketches a little bit further, because these are both things that I've, like, it's a lady holding a sword, and this guy was an old comic character. I could probably draw these things really without a sketch too much, so that's why they're kind of so loose. In regards to hatching, I sometimes kind of hatch kind of randomly. Technically, you should be thinking about where the light is coming from and what's creating shadows and stuff like that. So you obviously always have shadows where, like two pieces of cloth are touching. It's called like a contact shadow. And other places like that, like you might have some in here too, but technically, like, because I put some shadows on the right side of his hat here, like the light is coming from both here and then also this direction, sort of. So it could just be like a top, maybe like a top light or something like that. But when I was starting out and like learning how to do lighting and stuff while drawing, I would sometimes draw these arrows just to remind myself like where the light's coming from. So that's something helpful. You might want to try that, especially if you're just starting out. And you can see I'm kind of like ignoring my undersketch, at least kind of for the most part here, just because that sketch is so loose. Like I'm using things definitely like the pauldrons here. Her hair is gonna go over most of what I had down, and I'm still being pretty loose here. Like I'm not being super precise, and you don't really need to be. Like a lot of the time, I think when you're first starting out, you're kind of overdoing the whole like following your sketch thing. Like you don't have to be that exact. Like if you see an opportunity to make something better than how your sketch looked, you do it, because usually it will be better, right? The sketch is just a guide to help you out, but really you should get to a place, if you can, where you can draw at least most things somewhat freehand, at least. A good way to do that is to start drawing only with ink. So like if you go, only use like a fountain pen or a felt tip pen, or whatever you like drawing with that's permanent, it will really get you out of your comfort zone and really get you to a place where you can just go in and kind of just draw whatever you want at any moment, which is a useful skill to have. I don't always have that. A lot of the time I do like do under sketches just as a comfort thing. It's good to just build that muscle, because it also just helps with like problem solving and stuff like that as well. Alright, so we got two characters there, super fast, right? Wow, this guy's hat is super wobbly. That's okay. She definitely looks better than him, in my opinion. Like I drew him way faster than her. I did not take enough time. Also, her scabbard is way too small for her sword, but it is what it is. That's actually really gonna bother me, so I'm gonna fix it real quick. Something to note too when you're drawing females is typically, obviously everybody's body is different, but typically comic book characters are drawn where at least a male form is more blocky. Right, that's really bad. 1 second. All right, so typically a male form is going to be, at least the way I think about it and draw it, is going to be a bit more blocky. It's specifically in the waist, so like the male chest kind of is a bit more blocky. So the shoulders are a bit wider, and the waist is thinner. It's really the waist that's the indicative thing here. For a female body, typically the waist will kind of push out a little bit. So if you see with her, there is this like curve here, sort of, for her body, like more of the hourglass shape, I would say. And then with a male, it would be more like straight down. There wouldn't be this like boom out at the bottom. And I'll probably just go ahead and throw color on these in, after I finish yapping here, just so this doesn't take too much time. But hopefully this is helpful. I've been thinking about my process a lot lately, and just ways to improve it, ways to change things up this year. I typically don't change my process too much, but I'll do a tweak here or there every now and then and kind of check in, which is a good thing to do on the occasion. But yeah, hopefully this helps. This is kind of how I do things, kind of pretty much step by step, and hopefully watching that real time and just seeing also how long it actually takes is helpful to see. It's not this like, I do a lot of obviously time lapses on this channel, but most of these drawings I'm doing take me, I would say, anywhere from 1 to 5 hours. Typically I try and keep them around 1 for the YouTube channel, but anything that's like a bigger illustration can take up to, I would say, 5 to 8 hours, yeah. Stuff like this, just single characters, super fast, super easy, nothing super complicated. I also want to take some time to talk about line weight here a little bit. Obviously the line weight is a little bit all over the place, or it's very similar, because that's kind of how it ends up being with brush pen most of the time traditionally. I really don't pay attention to line weight too much unless it's distance the line is from the camera, or like the point of view that you're looking at the drawing. So like if I drew something like way back here, I would draw it way thinner, but if it's up close, I'll use a thicker line basically. So it kind of gives the illusion of depth. But on the actual characters, like for her, like most of this is all gonna be the same line weight. Typically, other people do things differently. Like if it's a smaller detail, they might use a smaller line weight. But I typically just mainly pay attention to camera distance, at least in my own style. You kind of have to find what's right for you in all that. Yeah, hopefully this was helpful, seeing the process. Again, I'll finish out this video and color these. But again, kind of go over the points here. Simplicity over complexity. These are kind of the, find out what you need with the way you draw. You might need both, kind of like I do. But as well, you might just need one of these kinds of things, especially when making a comic. You can intermix these styles, but you have to be very intentional when you do it. You can't just be doing it at random, like everything's got to be for a reason, right? You always have to have a reason for why you're doing things, like even to the point of like, why does she have a sword? Oh, it's because she's maybe a paladin, she has a little holy symbol there or something like that. You need to be always asking yourself the whys of why you're doing things. Like try and make everything as conscious as you can, conscious of a decision as you can, which takes a lot of time to get to, and a lot of time to get to that place. And even when you're a little bit further along, if you're just starting, that muscle just really takes time to build and to be conscious of in itself. So, but do your best to always have a reason for why you do things, as it will help inform your process, inform your style, and all that kind of stuff. After that, building the skeleton and form, kind of this kind of thing. Pretty simple with the way I do it, but you can obviously scale this up, go more complex. Start putting the muscles in there and all that kind of stuff, if you want to. I enjoy drawing muscular figures on the occasion, so I will go in and add muscles sometimes. If I do that, typically I'll do the deltoids kind of more in this like teardrop-ish shape, and then I'll build the biceps off of that, triceps back here, and then the forearms will go off of that, kind of like that. That's pretty loose as well, but that's kind of the main shape. So you have kind of a ball shape here, kind of use a different color. Another one here, another ball kind of attaches at the back, and then the forearms are a little bit of an enigma because the muscles kind of wrap around. So I'll usually just draw a tube and then just use these things to kind of delineate those muscles crossing and wrapping. You can be obviously way more specific about it, and you know, if I need to, I'll use reference, but I'm not someone that typically uses a ton of reference, at least while I'm or I'll leave those there. While I'm drawing specifically, I'll usually use reference to practice drawing something before I draw a thing, and then when I'm drawing, I like to just focus in and do the thing, and not really be looking at reference too much unless I really need it, which those cases do arise sometimes. I've rambled on about this over and over and probably said multiple things multiple times, but hopefully this helps. And you know, if you have any questions about how, you know, you do things or how I do things, feel free to ask them in the comments. And yeah, let me know if you want to see more videos like this as well, something more technical, less of the, I guess, mental side. I'm not, like, again, I'm a self-taught artist, so I try and stay away from the like teaching stuff, because you know, I can only teach my way. But if you're interested in seeing more of that, yeah, let me know. Oh, and last thing, I've put some digital prints over on my coffee. I'm gonna start, unless it's something like this where it's kind of more of a sketch. If it's like a finished illustration, I'm gonna start putting those up on my coffee as like a little extra thing where you know, that you can just download the image, you can print it off yourself, all that kind of stuff. Some of them will be free, some of them won't, but yeah. But anyway, thanks for hanging, thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you.